Well, it's here. The long-awaited masterpiece that is Superman 2025, previously known as Superman Legacy, is here. Now, I've been waiting patiently for this film since it was announced almost 2 years ago, and I've been cautiously optimistic. Now, James Gunn has made a couple comic book movies so far, and each one has been pretty good. I don't think there's any that I do not like. My concern going into it was that he is kind of a one-trick pony as of right now, or at least before Superman was released. He has made three Guardians movies, as well as the Suicide Squad, as well as Creature Commandos, as well as Peacemaker, and all of those are essentially the same spin on the same thing. You have the group of unlikable misfits who learn to love each other as a family, and then you have the spin-off, and then you have the animated, basically just Suicide Squad. Like half the characters are even in the Suicide Squad, which I think all the films that he's made are really good. I really like the Suicide Squad. I really like Guardians. Guardians 1 is probably top 5 MCU for me. But going into Superman, I was concerned he would stick with the vibe he's been known for. I will say I was pleasantly surprised. I know you've read the title of this video, so you know this is going to be everything that is good about Superman 2025. Now, I do want to have a little bit of a series we're going to make where I want to talk about everything that worked for me in this video, and I want to talk about everything that didn't work for me in another video. There's a couple things, not many, but there's a couple things that I would have personally liked changed or explained. Um, the film's not perfect. It's leagues above, say, Man of Steel or anything from that era. And speaking of Man of Steel, I want to do two similar videos where I talk about everything that didn't work for me in Man of Steel and everything that did work for me in Man of Steel and see how they kind of compare and contrast. Intro aside, let's start with the things that I really liked. Number one, the tone. I was concerned, like I said earlier, was going to be too Guardians-ish, which it is a very happy and funny film, but like it's not overwhelming how quippy it is like some of the Guardians movies are, which is nice, and I really liked that. David Cornsweet is really good in this movie. He's literally Superman pulled straight off the panel. I was hyped even when they announced the casting because he looks like Superman straight off the panel, and so I was pleasantly surprised about that. Lois Lane, all the side characters in this are really good. I had zero problems with anyone. Lois Lane, again, ripped straight off the page. I liked the Jimmy Olsen gets all the bitches bit. I thought that was silly. Crypto worked for me. I really liked Crypto. I was worried about is he would just show up and be in the movie because he's cute and be a merchandisable little dog, but he was good. Lex Luthor, guys, Lex Luthor is really, really good. I was concerned before I saw Nosferatu because I had never heard of Nicholas Hoult besides in the X-Men movies, and he is good in the X-Men movies. I really like him as Beast, but I wasn't sold that he could pull off Lex Luthor. And then I saw him in Nosferatu, and I was like, okay, no, this guy can act. And then I saw him in Superman, and all my concerns were immediately put to rest. He's really good. The visuals, this movie looks really, really good. There's a couple of questionable CGI spots. The one that really stood out to me is the this one, but again, I'll talk about all the CGI mishaps in my more negative video. This one I want to focus on all the things that I really liked. So, but for the most part, the CGI and the cinematography is really good. I don't have any of the footage, but it looks really good. A lot of these shots in the trailer are really good. A couple of these shots, like this was my favorite shot of the entire film. The art direction was really good. Justice Gang. Justice Gang is hit or miss for me. For the most part, the Justice Gang is really good. Again, ripped straight off the page. Guy Gardner especially stood out to me as being really good. I love Nathan Fillion, and I knew he was going to be good. I know him mainly as Hal Jordan because he's Hal Jordan in a lot of the animated movies, and so that originally made me concerned that he'd act too much like Hal Jordan. But nope, he's literally just Guy Gardner. He's a dick. He's got an ugly haircut, and I could not be happier. Mr. Terrific. I knew who Mr. Terrific was because I've read comic books, but I had never heard the hype from regular people. Like I went with my girlfriend and a couple friends who had never heard of Mr. Terrific, and they were like, "He's cool. I like Mr. Terrific." And I think that's a sentiment shared by a lot of people who watched this movie who had never heard of him before. I've always thought he was cool. And again, he has one of the coolest James Gunn-ish scenes of the movie. Metamorpho, again, he's really good. I really liked Anthony Carrigan. Anthony Carrigan, is that his name? Anthony Carrigan. Yes, I was right the first time. He's really good. I really like Anthony Carrigan in The Flash, and so I knew he was going to be good in this movie because he's very good at playing the person who kills people with smoke. That's a Flash joke if any of you have seen the Flash TV show. Hawk Girl was good. I liked her. I like her actress. I wish she had more to do in the movie, but she is good. The suit. I really liked the suit. I was hesitant about the suit when they released that first promo picture, which was a terrible first look at the suit. It was dark, and they used the dirty version of the suit right after he fights the giant monster in the movie. I didn't like how they used the dirty suit as the first reveal of the suit. However, that scene that we see in the first reveal of the suit is one of the best scenes of the movie. Um, Even though I do think it's funny that he kind of just stood by and watched the Justice Gang fight the imp. I know they've probably fought a bunch of imps before, but it was still a little silly that he kind of just ignored it. The Superman robots. I really like the Superman robots. They're great in All Star Superman. I was always kind of like, hey, does Superman need robots? And then I saw him in All Star Superman, and so that's when I was kind of on board with the robots. And they look way better than they do in the Man of Steel and the Snyder movies. They just look like gray blobs, which is they look way better in this. And Alan Tudyk is really good. I like him as Joker in the Harley Quinn show, and I just like Alan Tudyk. A lot of the advertising is really good. On the Monday before the film came out, USA Today had a Daily Planet newspaper, which I managed to get a hold of. And I think this is a very cool way to advertise, and I hope they do more stuff like this. A lot of the promo stuff is really good. I'm glad they use the trunks. The trunks are hit or miss for me. I know a lot of people are live or die by those trunks, but I honestly, it depends on the interpretation. I personally really like the new 52 suit. I know it's a hot take. People don't like his collar and all that kind of good stuff, but I really like it. And so I think the trunks, it really depends on what you're trying to do with the Superman if you're going to do trunks, but I think the trunks work very well in this. This is the pinnacle of how Superman acts. The fact that he goes out of his way to save a squirrel is beautiful. That's a very Superman thing to do. Final battle is really good. I really like the talk between him and his dad. That was my favorite scene in the movie besides the very end. I really liked how they had Mon Pa Kent. I liked how Pa Kent didn't die in a tornado. That's always a plus. And I really liked the little talk that his dad gave him about how his parents don't really necessarily define him, and how his parents being questionable moral wise doesn't define him as a person, and it also sells Clark being human above all else. um I really like that they use the mythos of Superman's parents and they change it, because I know a lot of people dislike the way that Clark's parents were portrayed in this film because it's a different from any other version of them we've seen, but I quite like how we have a his biological parents who were questionable moral wise and his adoptive parents that were completely different, kind of enforcing Clark being human. And it's a nice spin on, say, the Omni-Man effect, where they have the evil Superman, but they make it seem like it's going to be evil Superman, but then they don't. That's all great stuff. I liked the Engineer. I liked Ultraman, kind of. I have mixed feelings on Ultraman, but again, we'll talk about that in my other video. The very last act of this film carries it. I think it's a little slow in the very beginning after rewatching it a couple times, but after they escape the little pocket dimension and they go to Clark's house, that's when it really picks up. And I really like the climax. I love his final encounter with Lex Luthor. I really like his little speech to Lex Luthor. And the kid, we're going to talk about this when I talk about the Snyder movies, because I'm going to combine BVS and Man of Steel into one video. But there's a shot in BVS that this is reminiscent of, and I really like that shot in BVS, and I'm really glad that they had a similar one, because that was one of the redeeming qualities of BVS for me, was visuals like this, and I really like those. Otherwise, this was a fantastic start to the DCU. Um, as a Superman fan, Superman is my favorite superhero. As that kind of person, I will give this a 9 out of 10 for my comic book side and how it made me happy as a comic book fan. As a film, I will probably give it a 7.5. Again, the very beginning is a little slow. Star Wars text crawl is, you have to be very careful with Star Wars text crawl. It doesn't always work in things, but otherwise, we'll get into my little nitpicks in my next video. Otherwise, go watch it. It was great. James Gunn had one job, which was make people like Superman again, because he hasn't been liked for about 40 years now. He had one job, and that was make people love Superman, and I really think that he achieved that goal. And so, really, any other complaint that I can have is meaningless, because as long as he gets people to care about the character, that's all that matters to me. Anyways, that's enough from me, guy.